gentlemen, is a really good way to just go about reading your Bible. I just want to show you how I feel about Romans 8, 12 through 27, because we're about there in Romans, and I don't know if we definitely probably won't get through this, but this is just the verses. And Ben Gross has my Bible. That's okay. We don't need to read the beginning part. We don't need to read the context. Okay, we'll just start in verse 12. Therefore, brothers and sisters, we have an obligation, but it is not to the flesh to live according to that. What did I highlight there? Not to the flesh. What is that?
British accent.
That's when it's in italic. You go British. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
No, when it's in bold and italic, then you British.
Then you do
It's
British.
just italic, you Italian.
We have an obligation, but it is not to the flesh. Here, Paul has talked about in the previous chapter, chapter 7, he talked about the very thing I want to do that I don't do, and the things I don't want to do, those are the things that I do. He's talking about spirit and flesh. We have an obligation, but it's not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. Why should we not live according to the flesh?
So flesh sucks.
Yes, it does. Why else should we not live according to the flesh?
So it's consequences.
Because our flesh is our very murderer. You know? The flesh is what kills us. Why in the world should we serve our murderer the rest of our life? We ought to absolutely despise our flesh. We ought to hate our flesh. Not live for it, you know? Verse 13. For, I highlighted for. Why did I highlight for?
Look at the first one.
Because it matters. It's like, there's this, like, sentence diagramming is actually a really good thing. Like, when you look at what the Bible doesn't just command and say things. The Bible argues. The Bible makes arguments. Paul makes arguments. Jesus makes arguments. And it matters where the sentences are. They inform each other. So when we see for, he's talking about living according to the flesh. If you live according to the flesh, you will die. I highlighted that in big fat red, because that's death. Bloody. I tried to highlight it in black, but then you couldn't read it. If you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body, you will live. Thoughts on that? If you live according to the flesh, you will die. Does that bother anybody?
Not really, because we're not living according to the flesh right now.
Okay. What if I live according to the flesh sometimes? I guarantee you, sometime in the last hour, you've lived according to the flesh. I mean, I haven't. It's been like, I don't know, a decade or something since I abused my flesh.
More like a second.
So, what if you live according to the flesh? If you live according to the flesh, then you will die. You will. You will die. What does he mean by die? Does he mean just like earthly death? Or is that talking about something else?
Punishment.
Yes. He's clearly talking about hell here. If you live according to the flesh, you're going to hell. It's gonna happen. Now, why would he say this to a bunch of Christians?
Because we don't live according to the flesh?
But sometimes we do.
It doesn't all say like in Romans 8 or something like this, no longer I who do this, but like the sin living within me who will rescue me from the sinful body. Jesus died on the cross.
Yes? Yes. He does say that.
So like isn't that what you could say? Like
Yes. Yes.
okay. Here's another question. Okay, so I don't know, like, why, like, is he writing this letter to the Romans because the Romans Christian, or like they're saying, yeah, we're saved, but like we're still gonna sin and live for ourselves?
Yes, this is going to be to both Christian and non. It's going to be to both Jew and Gentile, to the Roman world. This is a place he hasn't even been to yet. He sent the letter before he'd ever been there. So it would be both. But if you live according to the flesh, you will die. Truth is, ladies and gentlemen, if you live according to the flesh, you are going to go to hell. Now, what does that mean for your particular salvation? Paul's bringing up something that's pretty tense here. Because what does that mean with your salvation? Does that mean I can lose it? I can lose my salvation? Huh?
Nope.
Okay. What is he talking about when he says, work out your salvation with fear and trembling?
Does he say that?
I don't know. Somebody Google it. He says it, though, in one of his other epistles. Work out your salvation with fear and trembling.
Maybe he's trying to emphasize like how serious our sin is and how serious like living according to the flesh is.
Mm-hmm.
That like the consequence for sin is death, and that's what we deserve. So it's a big deal that we don't live according to the flesh.
It is a very big deal to live according to the flesh. Here's the deal. When he's talking about can work out your salvation with fear and trembling, it is literally proving to yourself that you indeed are saved. That you indeed are somebody that is regenerate, chosen by God, predestined from the creation of the world. It says that Jesus will not lose any that God has given to him. He will keep them. How does he keep them? He keeps them by his very word. He keeps them by this, by warnings. You are kept. Okay? So if you live according to the flesh, you will die. Well, then you weren't saved. You were not. Let's move on.
But don't Christians still sin?
Christians, I don't sin. Do you sin?
Well, you just said right.
Yes, Christians do indeed sin.
So is not living according to the flesh?
Yes.
Is that really living according to the flesh, or is it just acting upon the flesh?
Or is it just the disease living within us that does
Isn't
it?
that what I said?
Just
And then you acted like it was stupid, and that wasn't the point.
show of hands. Who thinks it looked like I thought it was stupid?
So is that the point you were making? Like,
No, that's not the point I was making.
okay, so I feel like we didn't answer anything. Sorry, I
Okay.
wasn't the point you were trying to make.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to I just don't understand.
Okay, the point I'm trying to make is that there are all kinds of things in Scripture that talk about continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling, that talk about if you don't love your brother the same way that Christ loved you, you don't have the love of God in you. There's all kinds of things. There's tons and tons, hundreds of things in the New Testament that talk like that, you know? And when you read those things, it ought to stretch you. It ought to be, am I living this way? It ought to be a humbling thing when you read it. It ought to be convicting to read it because we don't want to be Christians that just live, yep, I'm saved, I got mine, I don't have to worry about my sin, I don't have to worry about behaving, I don't have to worry, nope, I'm good, I'm saved, I'm chosen, predestined for the creation of the world, and then you don't live a life that is worthy of the calling you've received. That's why he commands us to live a life that is worthy of the calling you've received. So if you don't live a life worthy of the calling you've received, you're living by the flesh, and you're going to go to hell. Does that make sense?
Because they're not saved.
Because they're not saved. Yes.
But would you say that our salvation is based on works then?
No.
So like what if you're saved and you feel really convicted about your sin and you're struggling with it?
That is okay. And we can move on now because I'm going to answer that. Does that make sense? What I just said?
Yep.
Faith without works is dead.
Faith without works is dead. Yes, it is. The demons believe and shudder. I'll show you my faith by what I do. Yeah.
Okay. But,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You're fine. No, you're fine.
Okay, so yeah, faith without works is dead, but that doesn't mean that you're justified through works. You're justified through faith and through what Christ did on the cross. So like,
Yes.
what Christ did on the cross, it should change you,
Absolutely.
and that's what makes the work.
Your faith is what saves you. Your deeds is what proves that you indeed are saved.
Kind of like the offering, because that's how people know that I love Deanna, or that Deanna loves me, is by her unity and her love towards me.
Indeed.
But her heart is the thing that makes her do the thing. Yeah.
What? Okay. Very good. Okay, but if by the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body, you will live. For those who are led by the Spirit of God are children of God. Okay, now, Deanna, don't ruin it for everybody. Because we talked a little bit about this last night. And I'm sure you were really listening. It just radically changed everything in your life, and you just want to get up here and teach this now, right?
You can continue.
Okay, so verse 14. For, oh look, there's another for there. That means he's referring to the previous verse, right? What he's already said. Those who are led by the Spirit of God are children of God. So what does it mean to be led by the Spirit of God?
To live.
What doesn't it mean? Okay, go ahead. Sorry, what?
To live is what it means.
To, okay.
Because that came before.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Nice. Okay, for those who are led by the Spirit of God, does led mean that I listen to the Lord's voice and I find the perfect bow for me? What? Does it mean that? I listen to the Lord's voice and he tells me to eat cheese pizza instead of sausage pizza. Is that what being led by the Lord means? Does it mean that, okay. If we look at the for, that means we have to go back to the previous verse. If you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body, then you'll live. So, being led by the Spirit then indeed means that you are being led by the Spirit to kill your sin.
And live.
And live. See what I'm saying? For is a big deal in verse 14. For, if you are led by the Spirit of God, you are children of God. How does he lead me? Well, he's talking about the previous thing. Putting to death the misdeeds of the body. So if you want to know if you're saved, okay? If you want to know if you're saved, one really good question to ask yourself is, do I hate my sin? Do I want and pursue killing my sin? If you ask yourself that question, if that's how you feel, that yes, I can't stand my sin, I don't want to live like this, I hate my flesh, I want to kill it, then it's a good sign that you're saved. Verse 15, it's a good sign that you are a child of God. The Spirit you received does not make you slaves, so that you live in fear again. Rather, the Spirit you received brought about your adoption to sonship, and by him we cry, Abba, Father. John Piper doesn't say very many funny things. He's just not a funny guy. But he did say something funny about this. He said, you can make a computer say Abba, Father, and then the computer says, Abba, Father. It was really funny coming from John Piper because he never tries to do anything funny. Anyway, but my point here is that word cry, which I highlighted in purple for passion. Was I creative? Right?
Ben the
Okay.
Bishop.
What? By him we cry, Abba, Father. It doesn't say we say Abba, Father. It doesn't say we call him Abba, Father. It says we cry, Abba, Father. If we cry, Abba, Father, then that means we long for him. We're at our wits' end. We are done with ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Do you cry, God, save me. God, help me with this stuff. Have you ever done that? Have you ever been in that place where that's how you felt, is I'm done. I got nothing left to offer. I've got nothing left to give. The only thing I've got is you. If that is how you have felt, and if you desire to kill your sin, then man, oh man, you're a child of God. That's what Paul's saying here. You know, if you want assurance of your salvation, those are the two best questions you can ask yourself. Do I want to kill my sin? Do I cry out to God when I need him? You know? Okay, so you see there's a lot of highlighted blue here for spirit. By the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body. By the Spirit you are children of God. By the Spirit you are not a slave to fear. Try verse 43. Maybe my 3 looked like an 8. 13:43.
Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls.
Oh no. Oh no.
Wait, 43?
Yeah, that's,
Then the
yeah.
righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of
Yes.
his Father. Whoever has ears, let them hear.
Okay. The righteous will shine like the sun. Let's talk about our glory. Think about this. We talk about God's glory and how we can't even look at God. But that says the righteous will shine like the sun. We can't even look at the sun. I tried to look at the sun the other day and everybody stopped me. Don't look at the sun! We can't look at the sun. With the bodies we have, we are incapable of looking at the sun and not being damaged by it. That is how glorious we will be. We will shine like the sun. Can you imagine if somebody was here from heaven, let's say my grandpa, my Grandpa Ray. I love my Grandpa Ray. I absolutely adore that man. I want to leave a legacy like he's left. If he passed away 3-4 years ago, but if he all of a sudden showed up in his glorious body, we would be tempted to worship him because of his glory. When an angel shows up, people drop in fear. The angels, Scripture says, the angels were made a little lower than us. An angel's glory is going to be less than our glory. The glory that's going to be revealed in us. It's pretty legit. Okay, moving on. Creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. This glory that we're going to have is creation is waiting in eager expectation for that glory to be revealed. Creation wants to take part in our glory. For the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself would be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God. See that? Yes?
What is the creation?
Everything. Galaxies, universe, all of it. All of creation has been subjected to decay. The second law of thermodynamics, which we talked about 9 months ago. Yeah.
It seems like the creation has feelings.
Yes, it does. Doesn't it? Now. Okay. Verse 21. That the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God. Not the glory of God. Creation is longing for us to be revealed, our glory to be revealed, and then creation is like, can I go be with that? Not us longing for this heavenly thing, but creation longing to be with us. We always talk about, I can't wait to be to heaven, I can't wait to go, and all that stuff. Yeah, creation can't wait for us to be glorified so that they can come play with us. That's pretty legit. Who subjected creation to the bondage of decay?
Or God.
Mm-hmm. In hope, the only person that could have hope by subjecting it, in hope that one day it would be liberated from that. Okay. Okay, one last point. We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in pains of childbirth right up to the present time. Not only so, but we ourselves, that's incredibly strong in the Greek, which is why I highlighted it in blue. We ourselves, not just we, but also we, but we ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for our adoption into sonship, the redemption of our bodies. Okay, then just keep going. I'm making a point about groaning here, so pay attention to the groaning. First, creation is groaning in the pains of childbirth. We groan because we can't wait for our redemption. Verse 24, for in this hope we are saved. We hope, but hope that is seen is no hope at all. Who hopes for what they already have? But if we hope for what we do not yet have, we wait for it patiently. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weaknesses. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself, that's another thing, same deal as the above, we ourselves, the Spirit Himself, intercedes for us through wordless groans. And He who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for God's people in accordance with God's will. So what's that groaning? What's the Spirit's groaning? What is that?
Yearn to do good.
Okay. I buy that. What else would the groans be? Is this talking about tongues, speaking in tongues? No.
Maybe
talking
it's like wanting to get out of this stupid world.
Yes! You've got the world that's groaning, that's sick and tired of being subject to decay. You've got us groaning and longing for, oh man, I can't wait to be done with this. And then you've got the Spirit groaning for us, interceding between us and God to bring us into sonship, the redemption of our bodies. There's absolutely nothing wrong with longing for what's coming. There's nothing wrong with longing for what's coming. People think, oh, I must be so depressed if I can't wait for that. No. That's the hope that you're saved by. That's the hope that God is looking forward to. There's absolutely nothing wrong with groaning. When you groan, the Spirit groans with you. When you don't even know, you're so full of anguish and you don't even know what to say. You can't even form words. The Spirit takes that emotion and perfectly communicates it to God with a longing that you cannot express, and then brings the will of God into your life. Groaning is a wonderful thing. Amy.